Ohio. Russian-born, the capital of Latvia and the largest city of the Baltic states with population of 614,618 people. 2021. Political, economic and cultural center of the country. Is on both banks of the river of Daugava. Western Dvina. At her confluence with the Gulf of Riga. Russian-born long time was the Hanseatic city, buildings of various styles from medieval architecture of the old city to a modernist style. Over 800 buildings and modern architecture join here. The historic center of the city is entered in the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. It is mentioned since 1198. Origin of a toponym from a Gadronym Riga, the former sleeve of the Daugava River. Nowadays doesn't exist. Gadronym is connected with the reconstructed Baltic basis of ring presented in the Lithuanian ring, ringis, bend, onions, backwater, creek. This basis in the form of ring is widely presented in toponymy of ancient Krsy areas. In language of Latvians of Vidzeme Krsy, in corresponds long, I, that is the Baltic basis of ring is presented by the rig form with the same value. On bends I received the name the river of Rigossip, the river with bends. Is filled nowadays up. And from a Gadronym was formed Oikni Riga. Since 1150 the Gotland dealers regularly came into the lower current of the Western Dvina to the small river of Riga, from which there is a name of the city. The Lake Lacus Riga representing the natural harbour is mentioned in Heinrich Latvyski's chronicles. In the latest times this small river was filled up, and now the place where it flew, it is possible to imagine only in the direction of some streets of the old town. On future place of the basis of Rigi missionary expeditions which, however, remained ineffectual till 1201 when Albert Buxgevden entered the mouth of the river with group of the German Knights Crusaders were repeatedly made. After laying of fortress Riga became well-strengthened military shopping center of Livonia. By 1211 efforts of the Bishop put Domsky Cathedral. In 1225 in the city there was an elective office of city vote, and in 1257 the residence of the Riga archbishops was transferred to Riga from the Exkiolok. For the city trade began to have escalating value, and in 1282 Riga entered into Hanseatic alliance. During the German expansion on the east bishops encouraged the settlement of Germans in territories of the indigenous pagan people. At the same time special support to military immigrants was given by a knightly award. At first it was Brotherhood of Soldiers of Christ of Livonia, Order of Sword Bearers, which was attached to the Teutonic German award subsequently. After exile of Crusaders from Palestine, the Teutonic Order began to become stronger in Eastern Europe, first of all in Prussia and Livonia. The Teutonic Order was the powerful and independent church organization which soon began to compete with Archbishops Riga for influence in the region. The Livonian office of the Teutonic Order led by a Landmeister who submitted to directly Great Master Ordina was formed. The conflicts between the Riga archbishops and the Teutonic Order quite often led to the armed opposition. In 1330 as a result of the civil war in Livonia Riga for a while lost the independence, but 36 years later returned her under the contract between the Archbishop and an award in Danzig. 1366. In 1522 Riga joined the movement of the Reformation, therefore the power of archbishops began to weaken. Wilhelm Brandenburgsky was the last Riga archbishop. From the beginning of the Livonian War in 1558 and after disintegration of the Livonian Confederation in 1561-1562. Frechenbaum didn't support the decision of the Archbishop and the award to join the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and tried to obtain the status of the Free Imperial City of the Sacred Roman Empire. The Free City of Riga existed nearly 2 decades. Only when at the next Russian offensive at the city in 1581 it became clear that the help has no place to wait, Riga swore to the Polish king Stefan Batory. "40 years Polish domination during which citizens underwent the Counter-Reformation that led in particular to calendar disorders. Stopped with conquest of Riga by the Swedish King Gustav II Adolf in 1622. In the Swedish kingdom Riga was considered as the second city after Stockholm, that it was connected with her strategic importance for protection of interests of Sweden as main Baltic power. During this period the city used broad self-government. During the Russian-Swedish War of 1656-1658 Riga was besieged by the Russian troops. Siege, capture, accession to Russia and stay in its structure. 18th-19th century. At the beginning of the 18th century Riga was one of the largest fortresses in Europe. The city was surrounded by powerful walls on which 5 bastions, 2 ravelins and 2 shannons were placed. All this was surrounded with a deep ditch with water. On the opposite bank of the river of Daugava there was a separate fort, Kabranchins, protecting the floating bridge. During Northern War, 1700-1721, between the Swedish kingdom and the coalition of the states of Northern Europe, Saxony, Russia, Denmark, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, etc. For possession of Baltic lands and domination on the Baltic Sea and its coast, the Swedish garrison under command of the General Count Niels Stromberg defending the city of Riga in 1709 totaled over 13,000 people. To force Swedes to the world in this prolonged war, the Russian Tsar Piotr decided to intensify military operations in the territory of the Baltics, and at the beginning of October 1709 ordered to the Count B.P. Sheremetev to take Riga. On October 27. On November 1709 Riga was blocked by the Russian army and two were finally besieged on December 13. 1709. 4 on July 15. 1710, after a long military siege, the city of Riga, defending with the Swedish troops, was taken by the Russian army under command of the General Field Marshal B.P. Sheremetev. The Swedish garrison capitulated. As trophies, the Russian army received all Swedish artillery which remained after a siege. To 561 down, 66 mortars, 7 howitzers. In captivity the remains of garrison minus 51, 32 persons, from whom 2905 we were sick, were given. In the same day the Count B.P. Sheremetev took oath of allegiance to Peter I from the Riga citizens and Lifliansky knights. Nobility. 12 on July 23. 1710 the General Field Marshal Count B.P. Sermatov solemnly drove to the city and at his gate received from the Riga Rat 2 symbolical gold keys from the city. Riga and all Lithuania's accession to Russia was fixed by the Nystatsky Peace Treaty between Russia and Sweden signed on August 30. On September 1721, Russia undertook to pay for the lands which departed from Sweden compensation in 2 million FMK, 1.3 million rubles. 17 on July 28. 1713 Riga became the center of the Riga province as a part of Russia. In 1783, 1796 was the center of the Riga namestnichestvo. In 1796, 1918 the governorate of Livonia. In 1809 the Lieutenant General of the Russian Army N. Asen was appointed the military governor of Riga. During Patriotic War of 1812 in the night of July 12. With 23 on 24 on Old Style. 1812 A background Essen, based on unchecked prospecting messages and having given in to panic waiting for approach of the French troops, hasty I gave the order to burn the Riga suburbs, the street. Petersburg and Moscow forced out of Riga that led to the destructive fire in the territory of the city. As a result 705 houses, 35 public buildings and 4 churches burned down and also thousands of people remained homeless. Philip Osipovich Polachki, the Governor-General of Baltic Edge and the military governor of Riga from 1812 to 1822. Russian Empire, 1825. On October 23, 1812 the Governor-General of Baltic Edge and the military governor of Riga appointed the Russian General F.O. Polachki under the leadership of whom after the termination of Patriotic War until 1822 restoration of the suburbs of Riga burned in 1812 was made thanks to what the city got modern quarter planning and also still a set of another successful matters. In 1841 the Riga Farforafanes factory of M.S. Kuznetsov opened. In 1848-1861 A. Suvorov, the grandson of the Generalissimo A5. Suvorov was the Governor-General of Baltic Edge and the military governor of Riga. The second half of the 19th century was time of blossoming of Riga as one of the industrial centers of the Russian Empire. In 1861 the railroad Riga-Dinaburg was constructed. Nowadays Daugavpils. And the Riga railway station is open. Then railway communication of Riga with Moscow, Street. Petersburg-Warsaw was adjusted. The city received the status of the important state railway junction. By the end of century the Riga seaport became one of the most important ports of the Russian Empire and was the second in goods turnover after the street. Petersburg Seaport. In 1869 in Riga the Russian Baltic carriage plant making railway cars was started. In 1872 in Riga the first railway bridge through the Daugava River was put into operation and also public transport, omnibuses appeared. In 1884 the Iljutsiemsky glass factory opened. In 1888 on the basis of merchant workshops in Riga the Russian Baltic Electrotechnical Plant, the predecessor of the Riga State Electrotechnical Plant, WEF, is created. In connection with rapid growth of the industry and trade in the city the population of Riga from 1800 to 1913 grew by 80 times, and the area of her territory from 1850 to 1913 increased 10 times. Despite the Russian citizenship, both city culture and large land tenure in the 19th century remained under the influence of the German highest layers. Russian became official language of office work in the city only in 1891. According to a population census of 1881 in Baltic provinces of the Russian Empire, more than 33% of the population of the city of Riga called themselves Baltic Germans, about 30% Latvians, 19% Russians, including Old Believers, 8.5% Jews. In 1913 already about 40% of the population were Latvians, nearly 20% Russians, including Old Believers, about 13% Baltic Germans, about 7% Jews. The smallest share of the population was made by inhabitants of the Polish origin. In 1914, when during war to the city refugees rushed, the number of inhabitants sharply jumped up from 473,000 to 558,000 people, and Riga, together with the Riga patrimonial district, half a year was the third largest city in the Russian Empire, conceding only to St. Petersburg, 2.1 million people, and Moscow, 1.7 million people, but the little bypassing Odessa, 498,000 in 1912, not including Warsaw, 885,000 in 1914, and Lodz, 600,000 in 1915. In the Polish Kingdom and also Kiev, which by the beginning of 1914 had 595,000 inhabitants. Industrial growth. From May 1909 to 1915, the Russian Baltic carriage plant in Riga released the first Russian cars of the Russo Balt brand. Industrial growth of Riga was interrupted with World War I, 1914-1918. Since 1915 the city was near the front line, therefore about 200,000 inhabitants. Workers with the families were evacuated together with the plants to the central Russia, to the Urals and to Ukraine. In September 1917 the city is occupied by the German army. On November 18, 1918, in Riga, occupied by Germans, the independent Republic of Latvia was proclaimed. During 1919 in Riga, three various Latvian governments alternately were located. From January 4 to May 21 there was a Socialist Soviet Republic Latvia. After her overthrow by forces of a Baltic lander and the German voluntary case, for a short time Andriev's Nidra came to the power. Then the power of Karlis Ulmanis, which could be kept also after offensive at Riga by fall of 1919 of divisions of the Western Volunteer Army of Bramant Avila, was restored. On August 11, 1920 in Riga the Soviet-Latvian Peace Treaty, and on March 18, 1921 the Soviet-Polish Peace Treaty was signed. On February 3, 1931 the Diet adopted the law on the capital of Latvia, which became Riga. At this moment in the city there were 40 statistical areas. The Old City, Boulevard, Vidzim, the area of the Esplanade, Avota, Latgale, Moscow, Frizinkins, Darzini, the area of Dunta Street, Inibu, Sarkandogava, Port, 11, Vetsmilgravis, 12, Yonmilgravis, 13, Mesopark, 14, Chayakirkles, 15, Zemitana, 16, Sils, Daik Shmeli Meshtsiams, 17, Ubla, 18, Perftsiams, 19, Antsiams. To the right of the railroad from Yinyavarta station, 20, Kangaregs, 21, Islands, Zekusala, Lutsevsala, Mukasala, 22, Torniakons, 23, Agenskans, 24, Kipsala, 25, Zasalaps, 26, Egyptiums, 27, Spilva, 28, Bolderea, 29, Dog of Griva, 30, Bull of a Muse, 31, Kleists of a Muse, 32, Lachip, 33, and then Misha, 34, Zolituda, 35, Champatris, 36, Baiarini, 37, Liftsimes, 38, Zaitnikons, 39, 40, Yontsimes. April 1919 is considered date of foundation of the Riga electrotechnical plant VEF. In the 1930th years the Vairags joint stock company, late known as the Riga car building plant, which became the largest producer of cars and railway cars in the Baltic states, was founded. In 1938 in Riga there were 385,000 inhabitants, from whom about 45,000 had the German origin. Would come into power in Germany of National Socialists of Latvia not only new tendencies of foreign policy of the USSR to return of the former territories of the Russian Empire, but also the German interests on inclusion of Latvia in structure of a Reich began to threaten. In Molotov's Pact Ribbentrop in August 1939 two powers, Germany and the Soviet Union, recognized the territory of Latvia as the Soviet sphere of influence. On the basis of the Treaty of Friendship and Mutual Aid between the governments of Latvia and the USSR, the narrow contingent of the Soviet troops is entered into Latvia. The President Carlos Ulmanis in this regard said, recently signed contract strengthens safety. On June 17, 1940, on streets of Riga parts of the Red Army appeared. On the elections which followed soon, the pro-Soviet bloc of the working people, Darba Tautas blocs, took all places in newly established National Diet of Latvia. Soon the city of Riga became the capital of the Latvian Soviet Socialist Republic. During the Great Patriotic War, 1941-1945. During attack on the Soviet Union, troops of Nazi Germany occupied on June 30, 1941 Riga. On July 25, 1941, the territory of the Latvian Sur occupied by the German troops was announced by the General District Latvia, with the center in the city of Riga. The district was a part of the Ostland Requisariat. Otto Heinrich Drexler was appointed the General Commissioner of the district. 29602 Riga Jews were imprisoned by Germans in the Riga ghetto. Since July 21, 1941, 6,378 more Jews were killed before his creation. Avoided executions were put into the Riga Kaiserwald camp or deported to other concentration camps of Hitlerite Germany. On October 13-15, 1944, by blows of the 1st, 2nd and 3rd Baltic fronts of the Red Army versus Hussar, Riga it was exempted from the German troops during the Riga offensive operation. On September 14, on October 22, 1944. During Operation 150,000 Soviet soldiers and officers died. As a result of defensive and offensive combats in 1941 and 1944, the old city in Riga was seriously damaged. In post-war Riga there were 3 camps for the German prisoners of war. The German prisoners of war took part in construction of the Riga shipbuilding plant. Floating docks for this plant in 1946 are brought from Germany. Turbines of production of AG, necessary for restoration of the Riga power plant, were dismantled and transported from power plant in the Polish Katowice. The city gained considerable economic development in post-war time. Here many industries developed. Mechanical engineering, Riga car building plant, RAB-P, Riga bus factory, RAB-ERF, Riga motor construction plant Sarkana Tudisvejena, radio electronics, Riga State Electrotechnical Plant WEF, Riga Plant Radiotechnica, Alpha Production Association, Chemical, Easy and Food Industries, Riga Factory of Musical Instruments, Perfumery and Cosmetic Plant, Sinters, Riga Confectionery of Lime, Riga Plant on Production of the Household Equipment and Toys Stram, etc. The Riga Hydroelectric Power Station and a number of TETs are constructed. Owing to industrial growth, the population of the city grew from 228,000 people in 1945 to 909,000 people in 1990. Considerably, due to resettlement from other republics of the USSR. After restoration of independence of Latvia in 1991, Riga became the capital of the Sovereign Republic of Latvia again. In 2014, Riga was called one of the cultural capitals of Europe. The historic center Riga is located in the lower Daugava current, and northern suburbs are on the southern coast of the Gulf of Riga. The southern and western neighborhood of the city is rather poorly populated. Extensive swamps and bogs once were natural protection of the city. The landscape created during an era of the last ice age abounds with small lakes and streams, and to the east and the north from the old city at the end of the 19th century heathlands from sandy dunes stretched. In the northwest the city district Riga is washed by the Baltic Sea, in the east and the northeast borders on Tarnikavsky, Gurkonsky and Hunarpinsk, in the south, with Salispils, Kakavsky and Olane, in the west, on Moropsky and Babitsky regions and the city of Jermala. To the west from Riga there is a resort country place, the Riga Beach. Climate in Riga moderately continental with warm damp summer. Average air temperature in July -18.7 C. An average amount of precipitation -85 m. And in the snow winter. Winters with frequent thaw. Average temperature in February 2.6 C, they'll come about 10 times a month. However, frosts are frequent too. 20 C. Snow cover is formed at the end of December and remains to the middle of February, the beginning of March. About 40% of days in a year are cloudy. The amount of precipitation makes 668 m a year. Average annual speed of wind 4 m/s. Average annual humidity of air 79.2%. Threshing Barn is officially divided into 3 administrative regions and 3 suburbs, consisting of numerous residential districts. Courland District, Green Collar Area 79 km. Population 133,505 man. Zemgale Suburb, Grey Collar Area 41 km. Population 105,090 people are located in Zadvini. Northern Area Brown Collar Area 77 km. Population 80652 man. Central District Red Collar Area 3 km. Population 24547 man. The heart of the city is concentrated the majority of sites of Riga, the historic district Old Riga, theatres, the museums, business centres, the central station and many other things here. Vidzeme District Blue Collar Area 57 km. Population 172,064 man. The part of the Vidzeme district is in the historic center. There are numerous monuments. Riga Latvia Suburb Yellow Collar Area 50 km. Population 193,287 man. Threshing Barn, the most multi-inhabited city of Baltics. However, since 1990 the number of her population was strongly reduced and continues to decrease. Reduction of number is a consequence of emigration of the Russian-speaking population within the first years of independence. In the next years, departure of citizens of Latvia to other European Union countries, resettlements of many Rigans to the municipalities of the Riga agglomeration surrounding the city, and also low coefficient of birth rate among all nationalities. As of 2021, according to the Central Statistical Office, the population of the city was 614,618 people. As of 2021, the share of the population is more senior than 65 years in structure of the population of the city made 21.37% of the population. 131,340 people. And the share of the population is younger than 14 years made 15.38%. 94532 persons. As of 2021, according to the Central Statistical Office, the population of the city was 614,618 inhabitants over 686,253 people according to the Register of Inhabitants. The Office of Citizenship and Migration Affairs (EDBIS). That is what is atypical for the large city's population of Riga, de facto less than de jure. Graphically, dynamics of population of the city looks as follows. Latvians 46.3%, a census of 2011. Russians 42%. Belarusians 3.9%. Ukrainians 3.5%. Poles 1.9%. etc. Live in Riga. On a referendum of 2012 of 61.6% from voted in Riga spoke against giving to Russian of the status of the second official. A national share contra -74.8%. The Russian-speaking population lives more in the residential districts built in Soviet period, and Latvians are closer to the downtown and in areas of private building. The largest specific weight of Latvians in the central district of Riga, 60.9% of the population, and the smallest in Courland, 36.4%. In Riga there is a residence of the President, Parliament Diet, the ministries, the Supreme Court, and also numerous diplomatic missions. The city administration occupies the building of a town hall at Town Hall Square. In the old city, the city council totals 60 deputies who are elected each 4 years, and from their number its chairman, the mayor of Riga, is appointed. In 2009 Neil Yushakov became the first ethnic Russian on the mayor's post, is repeatedly elected in 2013 and 2017. Threshing Barn, the most economically developed region and the largest industrial center of Latvia. In this city carry out activity of 60% of the Latvian enterprises and more than 50% of able-bodied population work. First of all, it is possible to allocate the food industry and also woodworking, textile, chemical and pharmaceutical industry. The volume of the foreign investments involved by Riga, that is it by the important venue of profile exhibitions in the Baltics, increases. Almost all largest enterprises of Latvia are based in Riga, including the state power supply company Latvenergo, gas monopoly of Latvijas Gāze, the railway company Latvijas Dzelzceļš, the state post enterprise Latvijas Pasts, mobile operators Latvijas Mobile Telephones, Lint, Tele, Byte Latvija and Air Baltic Airline. The only stock exchange of the country, Nasdaq OMS Riga, is also located in the capital. Almost all important Latvian financial institutions are in Riga, including Bank of Latvia, which is the central bank of the country. Membership in the European Union allowed Latvia to expand considerably commercial relations with the European states, especially with Germany, Sweden and Great Britain. Russia remains traditional trade partner of Latvia. Tourism, an important source of income of the city. 90% of the tourists visiting Latvia go to Riga. Threshing Barn, the important international transport hub in the region of the Baltic Sea. Traffic flows between Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, Finland and Central Europe on European 67 Viaduct Baltica route and also between the countries of the Baltics. Železnični Bridge, the oldest of the remained bridges in Riga, which is also the only railway bridge through Daugava in city boundaries. The most important transport gate of the city is the railway station, from where trains go to Moscow and St. Petersburg, Russia, Minsk, Belarus, Kiev, Ukraine, through Jelgava. Services of passenger traffic are made by the Pasažieru Vilciens company. The Riga International Bus Station, which provides suburban and international bus traffic to neighboring countries and the majority of the countries of the European Union functions. The Riga Airport, the most important and largest airport of the Baltics, constructed in 1973 and offering flights in 82 directions. The annual number of passengers grew from more than 1993 to more than 4 million, and 2009 had a designed passenger traffic in 2.5 million people a year. In this connection, in Air Baltic works on construction of the new terminal worth €92 million were planned. The central knot of network of highways of Latvia is located in Riga. Stone Bridge connects the old city and Zidvini. Ostrovno Bridge connects Moscow with Zidvinium through the island of Zakusala, and Vantovi Bridge connects the old city with Zidvinium through Kapsala. In 2008, the first stage of New Yushny Bridge through Daugava was completed and opened for the movement. Construction of this bridge allowed to reduce quantity of jams in the downtown, and now it is the largest infrastructure project in the Baltics for the last 20 years, together with construction of the Northern Bypass Road. The Latvian Zemalu corridors, 27-30 km long. Public transport in the city is provided by the municipal company Riga Satiksme, which manages the movement of trams. 8 routes. The park has 253 cars. Buses, 53 routes, about 480 cars. And trolleybuses, 18 routes, about 300 cars. With extensive network of routes on all city. Since 1973 in Riga, successful operation of trolleybus trains Vladimir Veklik began. And also in the 1988 years, it was planned and projected the system of the subway. The only thing in the Baltic states. But because of the collapse of the USSR, it wasn't realized. The automatic system of bicycle rental of 6 consists of 17 rental centers of bicycles, generally in the central part of the city. In 2010, Riga was chosen as the cultural capital of Europe for 2014. In this regard, the embodiment of several infrastructure projects was begun. Construction of the Latvian National Library. Ungana Berkut's project on the bank of Daugava opposite to the old city, the concert hall, which will also become base for the Latvian National Symphonic Orchestra, and creation of the Museum of Modern Art. In the former building of power plant in Andrisala. Theaters. The Latvian National Opera Theatre. From the moment of foundation in January 1919 is placed in the neoclassical building. 1860-1863. Built for the German theatre. In his repertoire opera classics, since 1922 exists also ballet troupe. One of the largest theaters of the country is the Latvian National Theatre, which is also founded in 1919 and located in the building, before being the second city Russian theatre constructed on donations of the Russian community of Riga in 1902. The Riga Russian Theatre, the oldest professional drama theatre of the country. His first season opened in 1883, and the repertoire consists of the Russian and foreign plays. In the Dales Theatre, founded in 1920. Modern foreign plays are regularly put. Founded in 1944. The Latvian State Puppet Theatre. Shows, generally children's performances. After obtaining independence by the country in 1992, the new Riga Theatre was founded. Museums. The Museum of Occupation of Latvia is in the building of the 1970th of construction and is devoted to history period when Latvia was under the German and Soviet department. 1940-1991. In the Museum of Foreign Art, the meeting of the European art of the 16-21 centuries, largest in Latvia, is stored. The Latvian National Museum of Fine Arts is devoted to the Latvian art. In the Powder Tower, the Latvian Military Museum, with an exposition about the history of army, is open. In the Museum of the Latvian Jews, it is told about history of Jews of Riga from 18th century to 1941. The exposition of the Latvian Historical Museum in the Riga Castle is devoted to the history of the country since the Stone Age up to now. Latvian Natural History Museum. Expositions Riga include more than 80 cars and about 100 motorcycles and mopeds of the beginning of the 20th century. The Museum of History of Riga and Navigation is one of the oldest museums of Europe. Mentzendorf's house, a sample of the historical residential and trade building, also concerns to him. The Riga Museum is devoted to architectural and arts and craft style. Modernist style. In the 18th century, in Riga, blossoming of the European music began that turned the city into the largest audio system of the Baltics. The foundation for it was laid by foundation of the Riga Musical Society, 1760. And private orchestras, such as at the Baron Otto Hermann Fittinghoff, on the basis of whom in 1782 the Opera Theatre was founded. In Riga, such composers as Johann Valentin Mieder, Johann Gottfried Mutel and Georg Michael Tellmann worked in particular. In the 19th century, the tradition of the German music and tradition of the Latvian song folklore in parallel developed. From 1837 to 1839 as the conductor in opera theatre Richard Wagner, who already reached by then the international popularity, worked. Sometimes in opera theatre also Leo Blek conducted. Classical concerts were held in particular in the House Blackheaded and in the former Big Guild. The Latvian State Conservatory of Josip Vital was founded in 1919 and now totals about 500 students. In 1993 in Riga there took place the first in independent Latvia national song holiday. The tradition of Baltic song holidays has an old story. The first similar holiday was organized in 1873. In 2003, song holidays of all three Baltic countries were entered in the list of masterpieces of oral and spiritual heritage of mankind of UNESCO. In 2008 in Riga, the 24th National Song Holiday took place. War of Songs, in which the best choirs of the country with each other competed, became the culmination of a holiday. In 2003 in Riga, the song contest Eurovision was held. Architecture. In 1997, the center of Riga was entered in the list of the World Cultural Heritage of UNESCO for unique quality in the world and quantity of monuments of architecture in modernist style is relative without changes which kept historical appearance and for wooden architecture of the 19th century. In connection with the plans of further town planning development of the left coast of Daugava and in particular, the island of Kapsala, there is a danger that Riga will be entered in the red list of the World Heritage Sites which are under the threat. Experts from UNESCO and ICOMOS in a construction of high-rise buildings see threat of visual integrity of a general view of the city. The desperate request was sent to the municipal government to process these plans. It is conventional that management, the organization and protection of the World Heritage Site improves every year. The town planning sample of Riga represents a medieval kernel, the boulevard ring around the old city, and a new city with regular planning of streets. All these zones keep the authenticity and architectural features. Old Riga. Historic and the Riga geographical center on the right coast of Daugava, which kept the surf features repeating bends of the defensive works and shaft raised in 1857-1863. After demolition of a city wall, the open space is transformed to the city park with the city channel, which separates the old city from the new city, were formed. The old town centre is Town Hall Square, at which are the Riga Town Hall and the House Blackheaded. This house was destroyed during war and restored only in 1999. A Gothic building in the basis with a facade in style of the Netherlands Renaissance was put in 1334, and since 1447 was used by Trade Association Blackheaded as the place for meetings. Roland's statue is placed into the square in front of him. In 1211 the Bishop Albert Buxkevden laid the foundation for Cathedral Domski Cathedral. The Latvian Riga's Doms. His central part was completed within the 14th-15th centuries. Because of numerous destruction, height of his tower since 1776 is 90 meters, whereas height of the wooden tower constructed about 1590 reached 140 meters. At the end of the 19th century, and in the body which is considered as one of the largest and best bodies in the world, was established. Towers of Church of Street. Wyatt. For the first time mentioned in 1209, also repeatedly collapsed, last time during World War II. In 1220 5th Street. Yakov's Church. With her 80-meter tower, Riga, who now is the Catholic Cathedral, is for the first time mentioned. In 1582 it was redeemed from the Polish king and transferred to Jesuits. In the Riga Castle, the residence of the President of Latvia is located. The lot was built about 1330 as fortress for Brothers of the Livonian Award. And the building built in 1867 in style of the Florentine palace since obtaining independence the Diet Parliament of Latvia is placed around the Powder Tower. The rest of the former city strengthenings of 1650 remained. The building of the Riga Exchange, 1852. The Convention Yard, from 13th century. Ensemble of buildings Three Brothers, the 15th, 17th centuries. The Swedish Gate. Buildings small and big guilds. Menschendorfshasses, 1695. And Tannensterne also belong to historical monuments. Between the old and new city since 1935 there is a 42-meter monument of Swoboda. The author Carl Zale. At the very beginning of the 20th century, on a belt of green plantings around the old city, the large number of representative buildings, including National Opera Theatre, National Theatre, Museum of Fine Arts, Neo-Gothic Latvian Academy of Arts, 1905. And also the university was built. From 1876 to 1884 the Orthodox Cathedral of Christmas in the Neo-Byzantine style was built. On streets Elizabeths and Alberta, meets many remarkable buildings facades in modernist style. And the Moskva Vorstadt gets into the center there are former sheds for Zeppelins converted in the central market, and also the building of Academy of Sciences of Latvia built in 1958 in style of Stalin skyscrapers, wooden Lutheran Church of Jesus in classical style, and other monuments of architecture of different eras. The region of Mesopark is the country suburb built at the beginning of the 20th century in forests to the north from the city. On the Dune island of Zakyusala there is the Riga television tower, 368.5 meters high, which is one of the highest constructions in Europe. The territory of the city on the left coast of Daugava, Pārdaugava, long time was built up one- or two-storied wooden houses, some of which remain so far. Now on Kansaim Street the whole quarter of unique wooden building of the 19th century is restored. Sport. Especially for holding the World Ice Hockey Championship of 2006, Riga Arena, a multi-purpose construction with the maximum capacity of 14500 audience where there take place ice hockey, basketball competitions and concert actions was built. It also serves as the home arena for the Dynamo Riga club participating in the Kiekla Championship. The most successful football club in the country is Skonto Riga, possessing 14 champion titles, which was opened in 2000 together with football stadium Skonto. On 10000 places. The SIT Riga Basketball Club is one of the most titled clubs in the European female basketball. The famous men's basketball clubs from Riga: Baron/Lient, champion of Latvia 2008, and WEF. The Skonto Riga Basketball Club as the home arena uses the Skonto Arena on 6,500 places, built in 1999. Regular actions. The Riga Marathon, the annual marathon running passing on streets of Riga. The first competition was held in 1991, since then is held annually in May-June. Since 2006 the semi-marathon is also carried out. With assistance of the Riga Thought, the International Football Riga Cup tournament is regularly organized. The early hockey tournament, the Cup of the Latvian Railroad, is annually held. Parks and vacation spots. In the downtown there is a Vermonsky Garden, one of the oldest public parks in the city, founded in 1814 as the Park of Anna Verman. On his place there were wooden houses burned as a precautionary measure on a case of a siege of the city of Napoleon earlier. Almost 3 km park plantings is in the place of a ditch of the former city wall at the city channel, including the hill Bastianuyu. The Garden Viestura, a public garden, the first in the history of the city, which in 1721 was based by Peter I. The Garden Koyasalas, one of the oldest Riga complexes of landscape gardening plantings put already in the first half of the 18th century around future Moscow Vorstadt. On Elizabeth Street, on other side of quarters in modernist style, the Grunwalder Park, which conducts the history from the site presented by the Tsar Alexander II Nematsko Mutu Shooting Society, is located. From Orthodox Cathedral of the Nativity of Christ, the Esplanade Park stretches to National Museum of Fine Arts. The largest park of the city is Victory Park, having the area of 36.7 hectares. In 1985 the 79-meter monument of the Victory was established here. The highest point of Riga, 28 m above sea level, is in the Jaguskons Park, occupying all territory of the dune of 6.4 hectares of the same name. In Mesoparksa there are several forest cemeteries, including the Soldiers' Brotherly Cemetery, which has an appearance of the equipped park. The Riga Zoo contains about 1,300 animals. Science and education. In Riga the Academy of Sciences of Latvia is based. But now this organization isn't maternal for most the known scientific institutions. Among the last it is necessary to mention Latvian Institute of Organic Synthesis, Institute of Physical Power, Institute of Physics of a Solid Body of the Latvian University, Institute of Chemistry of Wood, Institute of Microbiology and Virology of A. Herkenstein. Widely are engaged in scientific work as well the universities. After finding of independence by Latvia in 1919 on the basis of opened in 1862, the Riga Polytechnical Institute, the Latvian University, was founded. It is the largest university of the country, totaling about 23800 students studying at 13 faculties. Again isolated from LU in 1958. The Riga Technical University, 16900 students. Also conducts the history from Polytechnical Institute. The Riga University of Stratton was founded in 2002 on the basis of the Latvian Medical Academy. Formed in 1990 of Medical Faculty of the Latvian University. It is also necessary to mention Academy of Arts and Institute of Transport and Communication. I divided with Aviation Institute to the Mouth and other higher educational institutions heritage of Riga. In 1998 the Riga Higher School of the Writers' Independent Institute at the Latvian University was open. The Stockholm School of Economy in Riga is affiliated structure of the institute of the same name in Stockholm. Besides in Riga the Conservatory, a set of other higher education institutions and also Institute of Go functions. Media. Threshing Barn, the most important information center of the country. In her there is headquarters public TV and Latvia's televizija radio stations. LT. And Latvia's radio and also private TV channels LT TV Latvia, Russian-speaking BX Latvia and TB Riga. Daily newspapers of Dean and Latvia's notice were issued. In Riga there are also editorial offices: the Baltic Times, the English-language monthly journal covering events of 3 Baltic countries, and also Russian-language online edition Meduza. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.